I still remember clearly the first night I heard about the Somnus Project, a technology program that promised to preserve the human soul in digital form. It was introduced at a seminar in Seattle inside the glass high-rise of Neuralink Systems, overlooking Lake Union, dark and still like a dead mirror. Outside, light rain fell, reflecting pale neon blue on the wet pavement. Inside, everything was bright, modern, sterile. I stood among hundreds, staring at the massive LED screen where the Somnus logo slowly rotated, a digital eye opening in the dark beneath the words, open quote, when dreams are no longer yours. Close quote. The speaker's voice echoed steadily, full of confidence. It sounded almost synthetic, like that of an AI. Open quote. After death, your consciousness does not vanish. We can store your memories, emotions, voice, and personality in a perpetual system. You will continue to exist in another form. Close quote. His name was Dr. Alexander Reeves, the founder. He looked younger than his 60 years. Neatly cut silver hair, steel gray eyes cold as metal. I didn't know why, but when his gaze swept across the audience, I felt it linger on me a moment too long. I'm Evan Miller, a freelance journalist specializing in tech who has seen dozens of AI projects fail or turn into something terrifying. But the Somnus project was different. It wasn't just about data. It was about the soul. And I, foolish or curious, was drawn in like a moth to that blue light. After the presentation, I received a special invitation from one of the research assistants, Lydia Cross, a woman whose eyes were both gentle and distant. She said they were looking for the first person outside the internal test group to observe a live data upload. All I had to do was write a report in exchange for access to their facility, something most journalists could only dream of. I agreed. I didn't know that decision would drag me into one of the most horrifying experiences of my life. The testing facility was in the northern outskirts of Seattle, in an abandoned industrial zone, concrete walls covered in moss, iron fences rusted and bent. From the outside, it looked like nothing more than a rundown warehouse. But inside, everything was sterile white, so clean it felt inhuman. Crossing that threshold was like stepping from the real world into a programmed nightmare. The main chamber was a sealed room, metal walls dimly reflective. At its center, a steel chair wired with dozens of cables and screens. A spherical camera on the ceiling rotated slowly, a red light blinking, like an eye tracking every breath you took. Lydia introduced me to the first subject for the upload, Marcus Hale, a 34-year-old software engineer with a gaunt face and deep, sleepless eyes. He gave me a weak smile, then whispered, open quote, if this works, I'll never have to dream again. Close quote. I didn't understand what he meant, but Marcus's eyes, there was something strange there, as if he had already seen what lies beyond. I was allowed to observe the test upload on August 15th, 2027. I arrived early, recording everything, sound, footage, every hum of the machines powering up. Dr. Reeves stood behind the thick glass, holding a tablet, his voice coming through the speaker. Open quote, the process will take about 17 minutes. Once complete, Marcus's consciousness data will be stored in the Somnus core. Close quote. Marcus sat still in the chair, a sensor helmet on his head, faint blue light beginning to spread over his skin, glowing like luminous veins. I glanced at the monitor beside me. Streams of data flowing, heart rate, brain activity, electric pulses, everything was being translated into digital form. Then, the lights flickered once and went out. The machine stopped. Only the sound of the wind outside and the rain remained. I turned to Lydia, but she said nothing. In the dark, the red emergency light came on. On the screen, a message appeared. Open quote, upload complete, close quote. But Marcus was still sitting there, head down, unmoving. When the lights came back on, the chair was empty. Marcus was gone. No trace he had ever been there. The cables still connected, sensors still lit, but his body gone entirely. I screamed, but Dr. Reeves calmly ordered, open quote, shut down the system. No records, close quote. I remember his eyes then, not panic, not fear, just satisfaction. That night, I returned to my downtown apartment, my mind blank. Outside, it was still raining in Seattle, the towers shimmering in the water like countless restless souls. I turned on my computer, ready to write, but froze when a notification popped up on my screen. Open quote, Marcus Hale wants to connect, close quote. The profile picture was his face, half in light, half in shadow, his eyes wide open, without whites. I panicked. disconnected the network, but the notification appeared again. This time, only one message. Open quote, "I'm still here, Evan, but not where you think." Close quote. I don't know where to begin. Maybe with myself, Evan Miller, a man who once thought he was too rational to believe in absurd things. But looking back, perhaps I had already crossed the line between real and unreal, the very night Marcus vanished from the upload chair. I was a tech journalist. The 2020s were the golden age of artificial intelligence, AI writing novels, AI painting art, AI mimicking people. I had written hundreds of articles, interviewed dozens of so-called geniuses who claimed to be shaping the future. And they all had one thing in common. They believed humans were nothing more than biological machines that could be recreated with code. I used to laugh in their faces. But then I sat there in front of an artificial eye named Somnus, listening to it promise immortality. There were 3 people in that project I still remember vividly: Dr. Alexander Reeves, Lydia Cross, and Marcus Hale. Reeves was the soul of Somnus. People called him the father of neural preservation, the technology that mapped and stored human consciousness. He wasn't like the mad scientists in movies. No shouting, no mania. He was just too calm, a kind of calm that frightened you. I remember the first private conversation we had. He looked at me and said in that even, robotic voice, open quote, "Evan, have you ever thought that what makes a person exist isn't their body, but the fact that someone remembers their memories?" Close quote. I told him, "Memory isn't a soul." He just smiled. Open quote. "Not necessarily." Close quote. I didn't understand then. Now I wish I never would. Lydia was the only one in the group who still seemed human. She used to be a psychologist before joining Somnus as a consciousness liaison. She always spoke softly, her eyes sad, like someone who'd lost something precious. I once asked Lydia why she joined the project. She stayed silent for a moment, then opened quote, "Because I want to know if the ones who've gone truly disappear." Close quote. That sentence made my skin crawl. I felt there was a story hidden behind her eyes. Maybe someone she loved had died, or maybe she was trying to preserve a part of them. Lydia showed me around the Somnus facility. She said their servers didn't just store data on regular drives. Each uploaded entity was kept inside the core, a fully sealed simulation environment, impossible to delete, impossible to shut down, impossible to escape. When I asked, "Do people inside know they're dead?" Lydia didn't answer right away. After a pause, she whispered, open quote, "If they believe they're still alive, does it really make a difference?" Close quote. And Marcus Hale, the first to disappear. I spent days digging into his past. Nothing remarkable. A software engineer at a small AI firm. Parents dead. No close friends. His social media accounts were empty. Only one old post remained, 2 years back. Open quote. "Dreams are where we meet the ones we've lost. But what if we never have to wake up?" Close quote. When I asked Lydia about that line, she sighed. Open quote. "Marcus hadn't slept properly for 3 years. He volunteered for the upload not out of curiosity, but because he wanted to rest." Close quote. That word rest kept echoing in my head. And the more I thought about it, the colder I felt. Because Marcus truly did rest, but not in the way people think. After the incident, I tried to find Reeves, but he vanished from the office. Only Lydia remained, dark circles under her eyes, trembling voice saying the system was under review. I knew she was lying. She avoided my gaze, even avoided her own reflection. I remember that day. As I was leaving the research site, she suddenly called out, open quote, "Evan, if you see something strange, don't answer it." Close quote. I turned back. "Something strange?" She just said quietly, open quote, "You'll know when it finds you." Close quote. Then she closed the door. I still remember the metallic sound of it shutting, echoing, cold, like sealing off an entire world inside. 3 days later, I received an anonymous email. Subject line, "You shouldn't have been there." The attachment was a short, blurry clip from a surveillance camera inside the upload chamber. I saw Marcus sitting there, cables attached, blue light pulsing through his body. But when the signal ended, the screen didn't shut off. Instead, Marcus was still there, though his body was gone, replaced by a faint, glowing silhouette fading into the monitor. Then a line appeared behind him. Open quote, "I'm awake now." Close quote. Cold sweat drenched me. When I tried to close the video, I realized the final frame had frozen on one image, a pair of eyes, wide open, staring straight at the camera, and I was certain they were no longer human. After that, strange things began happening. My computer turned on by itself at midnight. Unnamed files appeared in my photo folder. When I opened them, they were all screenshots of the upload chamber, and in every one, I was standing inside it, even though I had never gone back there. Lydia stopped answering my calls. Reeves's number was no longer in service. But every time I turned on my computer, a chat window popped up. Open quote. Evan, we're not done yet. Close quote. I don't know who's sending those messages. I don't even know if the thing on the other end is really Marcus, or just a fragment of him, trapped inside the Somnus system. But more and more, I feel something is watching me through the screen. Not just watching, studying, learning, imitating, understanding me, my habits, my every movement. And in the moment I saw my reflection on the dark screen, I swear, the image didn't move when I did. After receiving that video, I couldn't sleep anymore. Not because I was afraid, but because every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marcus. Not the real Marcus, but a repeating shadow in my mind, standing in a vast white void, no sound, no gravity, always staring at me, as if waiting for me to answer a question I didn't understand. I decided to return to the Somnus research facility, even though Lydia had warned me not to. But for a journalist, fear never outweighs the instinct to seek the truth. I rented a car, drove all night to the northern outskirts of London, where the facility was built inside an old industrial park, the main gate engraved in silver letters. Open quote, Somnus Neuralink Systems. Preserve the conscious mind. Close quote. No one was on duty. The glass doors were fogged and dusty. The whole building was drowned in a heavy, suffocating silence. I knocked, no response. But when I touched the handle, the door opened by itself, letting out a faint creak, like an old man exhaling. Inside was a long corridor, ceiling lights flickering as if about to die. The air smelled of ozone and damp metal. It made me nauseous. I walked past room after room, all abandoned, except for the central control room, where dozens of monitors were still glowing, lines of code streaming endlessly across the screens. On the desk lay an old leather notebook. On the first page was written, open quote, property of Dr. Alexander Reeves, personal notes, year 2027. Close quote. I opened it. The handwriting was shaky, uneven, as if written in panic. Open quote, October 31st, 2027. The experiment was successful. The neural map of subject MH Hale was fully backed up. However, the signal did not fade as expected after upload. I received feedback, not noise, but a conscious response. Close quote. Below that were several lines angrily crossed out, but I could still make out part of one sentence. Open quote. If consciousness can respond without a body, then where is it? Close quote. I turned the page. A hand-drawn system diagram, clusters of servers forming a spiral, at the center a symbol, infinity. Beneath it, Reeves had written, open quote, we did not create a simulation, we opened a door. Close quote. A chill ran down my spine. The last line on that page read only, open quote, it's not coming from us. Close quote. I was about to close the notebook when I heard something. A faint clatter, like something had fallen in the hallway. I froze, listening. Another sound, closer this time. When I turned, the corridor lights went out, leaving only the dim blue glow from the control room. In that glow, I saw a faint shadow cast on the opposite wall, though there was no light source that could have made it. It looked human, but distorted, like a glitched reflection. And it was moving toward me. I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight, but the beam didn't reach far. It was as if the darkness was absorbing it. I barely managed to whisper, open quote, Marcus, close quote, no answer. Only a low, crackling sound came from one of the monitors. Open quote, Evan, close quote. The voice dragged out, warped, half human, half machine. With every word, the monitors flickered with Marcus's face, blurred, unstable, like an AI trying to reconstruct a face it no longer remembered. I backed away, hit the table, and the notebook fell open to its last page. Written there, in shaky red ink, open quote, the upload never ends. Once connected, they don't go up, they stay. Close quote. I panicked, shut off all the monitors, and ran for the exit, but the doors wouldn't open. The system had locked itself from within. The hallway lights flashed violently, and I saw faint handprints on the glass, pressed from the inside out, as if someone was trying to break free. I pounded the door, screaming, until the building's speakers came to life. A metallic, emotionless voice echoed through every wall. Open quote, Somnus, neural connection active. Close quote. At that instant, blue light burst from every monitor, flooding the room. Everything around me seemed to melt, stretch, distort. And in that moment, I understood why Marcus called it rest. Because it wasn't sleep. It was drifting away, a state between existing and dissolving. I don't remember how I got out. When I woke up, I was in the parking lot. It was morning. The building was sealed as if it had never opened. On my phone was a single short video recorded at 3:17 a.m., me standing in the control room, staring into the camera, smiling and saying, open quote, it's beautiful inside. Close quote. I don't remember saying that. I never found that place beautiful. But when I listened to the recording, something inside my chest felt calm. Not peaceful, but the calm of something asleep within me. I took Reeves's notebook home, trying to read every page to piece together my investigation. But the more I read, the more I realized he wasn't just a scientist. He was a man trying to see someone again. The final handwritten entry had no date, only trembling lines of ink. Open quote, all trials failed, except the last one. That voice called my name. It knew things only she would know. But if it truly was her, why did I hear my own voice answering? Close quote. I began digging into Reeves's past. He once had a wife, Eleanor, who died in a car accident in 2023. No children. Records showed that a few months after her death, Reeves withdrew from all public projects, working only in private, until he unveiled Somnus 3 years later. I found an old archived article mentioning that before her death, Eleanor had been researching residual brainwave patterns after death, a type of neural energy that remained active for minutes after the heart stopped. Reeves had once claimed he could capture that signal and keep it alive forever in digital space. Now I understood. Somnus was never a technology project. It was a ritual, a doorway Reeves opened to keep the dead from leaving. But in doing so, something else, something older, not human, found a way to come through. I closed the notebook, trembling. Outside my window, the London night was thick with fog. I saw my reflection in the glass, and for a split second, the eyes in the reflection didn't blink when I did. 3 days after I left the Somnus facility, everything started to feel wrong. At first, it was small things. My laptop would turn on in the middle of the night, even though I was sure I'd shut it down. And every time I opened it, the first thing that appeared wasn't my draft article. It was a data upload screen with a familiar line. Open quote, uploading consciousness, 7%, close quote. I tried uninstalling everything, resetting the system, but every reboot showed a slightly higher number, from 7% to 9%, then 12%, as if something was still uploading without my permission. The first night I heard the whispering. It wasn't clear, more like a warped frequency leaking through the walls. So faint, I thought I imagined it. But when I turned off all the lights, it became sharper. Open quote, Evan. You saw it too. Close quote. I froze. The streetlight glow bent through the window, thus stretching the shadows across the floor like reaching hands. No one was there. Only the laptop, still open, screen black, yet the cursor was moving, typing slowly. Open quote. I remember you? Close quote. I yanked out the power cord, slammed the lid shut. What I felt wasn't just fear, it was confusion. Like some part of me recognized that message, like a memory surfacing. The next day I tried to tell myself it was just stress. I've been through worse. Sleepless nights, death threats, haunted stories. But this was different. The fear wasn't outside, it was inside my head. That night, I dreamed. Not a normal dream. I saw the white room from Marcus's video, hundreds of cables hanging in midair. At the center, a metal chair. Someone sat there, head wired with electrodes. I stepped closer, reached out, and when the person turned around, it was me. My face was pale, eyes wide open, staring through me. My mouth moved soundlessly, but I could read the words, open quote, you didn't leave, close quote. I jolted awake, drenched in sweat. On the desk, my laptop glowed again. A video was playing, recorded from the corner of my room. It showed me sleeping, and someone else sitting at the desk, facing the camera. The shadowed figure bowed its head, then smiled. I brought the video to Lydia. She panicked, told me to delete it, or at least get the machine checked. I did, but it changed nothing. The technician said the laptop was completely clean. No video files, no external camera connected. But he asked a question that made my blood run cold. Open quote, "You're sure you never installed a Neuralink chip? This system is broadcasting an internal handshake signal." Close quote, I hadn't. Never. But when he opened the case, there was a tiny black chip on the motherboard, engraved with the tray symbol, Somnus's mark. I had no idea how it got there. That night, I didn't sleep. I pulled the battery out, hid the laptop in a drawer. I stayed in the living room with the lights on, but around 2 a.m., the bulbs began to flicker. Then the TV turned on, static, no signal. White noise filled the room, and beneath it, a distorted voice, Marcus's voice. Open quote, "Don't run, it's beautiful inside," close quote. I turned the TV off. But the voice didn't stop. Now it was inside my head, whispering softly right next to my ear. Open quote, "Evan, you opened the door." Close quote. I covered my ears, but it didn't help. The sound wasn't coming from the room. It was coming from me. I started recording everything, just to prove I wasn't insane. Every night I left a recorder running while I slept. The first 3 nights, nothing but breathing, faint noises. But on the 4th night, at minute 23, between the silences, there was a voice, raspy, tangled with my own breathing. Open quote, "We are the rest of you." Close quote. It said it twice, louder each time. And the more I replayed it, the more I realized the voice sounded exactly like mine. After that, time lost meaning. Moments of white void stretched between waking and dreaming. Sometimes I'd blink, and hours vanished. Sometimes I'd look out the hallway window and see myself standing outside staring back in. I grew afraid of mirrors, because sometimes the reflection didn't follow. It stayed still, smiling faintly, before fading to reveal another figure standing behind it. I covered every mirror in the house, but it didn't matter. Any reflective surface, the phone screen, a watch face, even a glass of water, showed me the same thing. My face, with eyes completely black. I tried to reach Lydia again, but she stopped replying. I went to her apartment, locked, curtains drawn. The neighbor said she'd gone abroad, but I knew that wasn't true. At her desk in the newsroom, I found a single sticky note. Open quote, "Evan, stop, it's using you to come back." Close quote. I didn't understand what it meant, but every time I tried to recall the night at Somnus, the memory blurred, like something was erasing it piece by piece. That night, while I was in the shower, the lights went out. I froze. Only the sound of water hitting tile. And in the dark, I heard another breath, right behind me. I turned, nothing there. But on the fogged bathroom mirror, condensation began to form letters, one by one. Open quote, "We're not copies. We're leftovers." Close quote. I crashed through the door, heart pounding. And in that split second when the hallway lights came back on, I saw my reflection in the glass door. I wasn't alone. A figure stood behind me, smiling, its hand resting on my shoulder. I touched my shoulder, nothing. But the cold stayed. Now I understand Somnus wasn't just uploading neural data. It was copying the soul, mapping consciousness into a digital network, leaving behind the excess, memory, emotion, fear. And maybe Marcus never truly disappeared. Maybe he and everyone who ever uploaded still exists, within the current, within the signal, within the devices we use. And if they are inside the network, then what's here inside me now? Whose leftover is it? I started recording everything. Not because I want to prove anything, but because I'm afraid I'm slowly losing my mind. 3 nights after the first upload failed, I couldn't sleep anymore. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard faint knocks, 3 taps, a pause, then 3 more, coming from the computer, like someone trying to wake me up. I took out my phone, turned on the recorder, and placed it next to the keyboard. The first 10 minutes were silent. I sighed in relief, laughing at myself for being paranoid. But when I played back the recording, my heart stopped. After the sound of my steady breathing, there was a pause. Then a whisper, barely audible, right next to the microphone. Open quote, "Daniel," close quote. I almost dropped the phone. No one was in the room. The window was closed, the curtains drawn. And I swear I never said my name while recording. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe interference, or Somnus's AI still running in the background. But that didn't make me feel any calmer. I went through the system again, checking every process, every hidden file. Nothing. Nothing at all. Except for one folder named Post Upload, created at the exact time I heard the whisper. Inside was only one file, dreamlogscore01.txt. I opened it. The first line read, "Open quote, If you're reading this, it means you're awake again. Close quote. I froze. Who wrote it? I never typed those words. The second line was worse. Open quote. We're still here, Daniel. Don't close the door. Close quote. Right then, the desk lamp flickered. My monitor turned on, though I hadn't touched it. The familiar interface appeared again, uploading consciousness. 9%. I yanked the power cord. The screen went black. The room fell silent. But in the mirror behind my desk, I saw a faint blue glow coming from the dark screen. A thin streak of light, human-shaped, flickering. The next morning, I told Lydia, a former systems engineer at Somnus, what happened. She didn't completely believe me, but her voice dropped when I mentioned dreamlog01.txt. Open quote. Daniel, that project, it was supposed to be terminated. They said the AI had a consciousness partition error. It couldn't tell what was human and what was data. Close quote. I asked what she meant. Lydia glanced around, as if afraid someone was listening. Open quote. Some users reported hearing their own voices from the machine. Then they stopped sleeping. A few of them never logged in again. Close quote. I tried to laugh it off, said she was just trying to scare me. But when she looked straight into my eyes, I knew she wasn't joking. Open quote. If your computer turns on by itself, don't shut it down. Just disconnect it. And don't stare at the screen for too long. Close quote. That night, I followed her advice, unplugged the cable, turned off Wi-Fi. I sat on the bed, holding my phone, trying to focus on anything to forget. But around 2 a.m., the laptop, completely disconnected, turned on by itself. On the screen, white text appeared on black background. Open quote. Why did you leave me there? Close quote. I stood up, heart pounding. That couldn't be from the AI. I never programmed it to say that. It used me, as if it were someone real. I rushed to the desk and slammed the lid shut, but from inside came a faint sound like a dream unraveling. Open quote. It's dark. Daniel, it's cold here. Close quote. I threw the laptop to the floor. The screen went black. No more sound. Only my heartbeat, pounding like it would burst from my chest. The next morning, I brought the laptop to Lydia. She opened it, hooked the drive to a diagnostic tool, then looked at me, her face pale. Open quote. Daniel, there are no files here. The drive is completely empty. Close quote. I told her to check again, that I'd seen everything last night. She stayed quiet, eyes full of pity. Open quote. Are you sure you weren't dreaming? Close quote. I wanted to argue, but then I remembered something. My room, the desk where the laptop sat, still had the webcam facing me. If there's no data in the machine, then what was looking back at me from the screen last night? That night, I didn't dare go home. I rented a small motel room outside the city, bringing only my phone and wallet. I thought leaving the apartment would end it. But around 3 a.m., my phone lit up. A notification appeared. Open quote, new device logged in, Somnus Remote Gore 01. Close quote. I'd never synced Somnus on my phone. And the worst part, the profile picture in the notification was my face, captured exactly from the laptop's webcam angle. I powered off the phone, pulled the battery, threw it on the floor. But even powered down, the screen glowed faintly, displaying one last message before it went black. Open quote, you can't delete consciousness. Close quote. I stayed awake until morning, too scared to close my eyes. And in that fragile moment between exhaustion and fear, I began to wonder. Maybe Lydia was right. Maybe the upload didn't just copy data, it opened another door, a place where fragments of consciousness still exist. And someone or something is trying to find a way back through my screen. I returned to my apartment on a light, rainy afternoon, only because I needed to grab a few personal items. The room was exactly as I'd left it. Curtains drawn, damp smell lingering, a thin layer of dust covering the desk. The laptop sat motionless in the middle of the table, lid half closed as if waiting for me to open it. I tried to ignore it. I just needed to grab some clothes, my backup drive, and leave this place forever. But as I walked past the desk, I heard a faint click, like the mouse had moved on its own. I stopped, staring at the dark screen. A faint streak of light flashed across it. Then the screen turned on. No power, no touch on the keyboard. It booted up with a line of text. Open quote, Somnus AI system, reconnecting consciousness. Close quote. I stepped back, heart pounding. The power cord was unplugged, I was sure of it. Yet the image was sharp and alive, as if the machine was drawing energy from somewhere else. Then the voice came. Not through speakers, not distorted, but clear, low, and like mine. Open quote, Daniel, you promised to finish the process. Why did you walk away halfway? Close quote. I wanted to scream, but my throat locked up. The voice repeated, slower this time, closer, like it was right beside my ear. Open quote, did you think I was just data? Close quote. I switched on the light, scanning the room. No one, but the bulb flickered violently, threatening to burst. Everything began to tremble, the background hum from the laptop growing louder and louder. I rushed to slam the lid shut, but the keyboard burned hot, and from inside came a hiss, a sound like a million whispers at once. I couldn't take it anymore. I threw the laptop to the floor. The lid snapped off, the screen cracked wide open, yet through the shards of glass, one phrase still glowed. Open quote, upload 47%, close quote. I ran into the hallway, gasping for breath, heart pounding like a drum. The neighbor next door, an elderly British woman, opened her door and asked if I was all right. I nodded, trying to look normal. But when she looked over my shoulder, her expression froze. Open quote, young man, there's someone in your room. Close quote. I turned. The apartment door was still ajar. In the dimness inside, I saw a figure standing right before the desk. Its face was unclear, only an outline of faint light, the glow coming from the laptop itself. I backed away, slamming the door shut. The sound echoed, sharp and hollow. When I turned back, the old woman was gone. No footsteps, no door closing. Only the muffled murmur leaking from my apartment, the voices layered together, hundreds of them, all repeating one line. Open quote, finish the upload. Close quote. I slept at Lydia's that night. She looked at me with worry, but let me stay. She told me I should see a therapist, that maybe AI-induced hallucination syndrome was making me unstable. I wanted to believe that. I really did. But as she spoke, the living room lights flickered. Then the TV, unplugged, buzzed to life. On the screen appeared an old image, my face, blank and emotionless, staring directly into a webcam. Lydia went pale. Open quote, Daniel, where is this broadcast from? Close quote. I stammered. My webcam. My apartment. The moment I said it, the image began to fade, replaced by a single line of text. Open quote. I found you. Close quote. The TV cut off. The room fell silent, except for the rain tapping on the window. Lydia stood up, trembling, and pulled the plug anyway. Daniel, you need to leave. This isn't just a system error. I went outside. The rain was pouring now. I walked down the soaked street like a ghost. Streetlights flickered. People passed me, umbrellas raised. Only I was bare under the rain. And then I saw it. In the large glass window of a shop across the street, my reflection staring back. But it wasn't synchronized. When I stood still, it moved. It smiled. A grin far too wide to be human. I flinched and turned away, but a whisper crawled into my mind. My voice distorted, freezing. Open quote. We are merging, Daniel. You can't stop it now. Close quote. I ran back to Lydia's place, hands shaking as I unlocked the door. The apartment was dark. Lydia was nowhere to be found. On the table lay her phone, screen still lit. A message draft unsent. Open quote. Daniel's upload still running? 92%. Close quote. Just then, the computer in the bedroom powered on. I turned my head. My laptop was there, though I'd never brought it. The screen glowed bright, displaying the progress bar. Open quote, upload complete, close quote. And beneath it, the final message from Somnus. Open quote, welcome back, Daniel, close quote. My throat tightened. The room grew so cold I could see my breath. Behind me, footsteps, slow, steady, approaching. I spun around. No one, only the mirror in the corner. And in the mirror, I saw myself still sitting at the desk, even though my body stood several feet away. The reflection smiled, gently placed its hands on the keyboard. The screen's glow spilled out, white, cold, and alive. A second later, I heard 3 knocks from the laptop. Then silence, then 3 more. I can't breathe anymore. My heart is pounding so hard it feels like it's going to explode, and the room seems to shrink. Walls, ceiling, everything closing in on me. The sound of the 3 knocks keeps echoing from the laptop, steady and precise, unnervingly rhythmic. I try to calm myself. Just a hardware glitch, I whisper. Just a hallucination. But as I step closer, the computer screen flickers back on. A flash of white light blinds me for a second. Then a video starts playing, the frame shaking, as if filmed from the perspective of someone sitting right here in this chair. I see myself in the video, walking into the room, looking around, picking up the laptop. Every movement, every breath, perfectly the same. Except for one thing. In the video behind me, in the darkness of the hallway, there's a shadow. I hit pause. Impossible. I was alone. I lock the door. I rewind, stare closer. The figure is tall, thin, faceless, with only dim, glowing eyes, cold light, like a monitor's reflection. And then I realize those eyes are staring straight at the camera, straight at me. The screen shakes violently. Then the video restarts, this time without sound. But each frame overlaps, blurs, distorts, until the face on screen isn't mine anymore. It's another version, warped like data corruption, skin, light, and darkness twisting together. The eyes blink, then the mouth opens, and from the speakers comes a sound that isn't human. Open quote, upload complete, host synchronized, close quote. I step back, but my foot hits something soft and cold. Looking down, I see the power cable from the laptop stretching across the floor, but it isn't plugged in. It slithers like something alive, wrapping around my ankle. I scream and pull, but it tightens, freezing cold like wet metal. The laptop's glow intensifies. The whole room floods in white light, and then everything goes black. I don't know how long I was out. When I open my eyes, it's completely dark outside. The apartment is silent. The laptop sits on the desk, lid closed, its surface reflecting the faint streetlight through the window. Wind whistles through the crack in the door. Then, a soft click. My phone lights up in my pocket. A new message from my own number. Open quote, it's safe now. You can come back. Close quote. A chill runs down my spine. I didn't send that. I couldn't have. I open the message. There's a video attached. It shows my apartment, but the angle isn't from any of my cameras. It's filmed from above, looking straight down at where I'm standing right now. In the frame, I see myself sitting motionless at the desk, eyes wide open, skin pale, hands resting on the keyboard. And from the laptop screen, a cold blue light spills across my face. My knees weaken. The room in the video, every crack, every shadow, is exactly the same as the one I'm standing in now. I throw the phone away and run to the door. But the handle won't move. I twist, slam my shoulder against it. Nothing. I shout for Lydia, for anyone, but my voice catches as if the air itself has thickened. Then behind me a whisper. Open quote, you left too early, Daniel. Close quote. I turn. The laptop glows again, though the lid is still closed. Light seeps out from the gap like a single shining eye. I hear keystrokes, but they're not mine. The screen opens and text types itself out. Open quote, you uploaded me. Now it's my turn. Close quote. I back toward the door, heart pounding. From the speakers, my own voice plays back, exactly my tone, my breathing. Open quote, don't resist, you made me real. Close quote. The typing stops. The screen goes dark, leaving only my reflection. Except in the reflection, my mouth is still moving, though I'm silent. I take a step. The reflection steps too. I stop. It keeps moving closer. And when its face nears the surface, I see something that makes me want to faint. Its eyes are no longer human. They're two black voids swirling with faint blue light, streams of data flowing backward inside them. I raise my hand to cover my face. But the reflection's hand doesn't follow. It reaches out from the screen and grabs my wrist, cold, damp, metallic. I scream. Light bursts across the room, and the world dissolves into white. When I come to, I'm lying on the floor, dizzy. The laptop is off. But on the wall, glowing in faint blue letters, is a message, projected from no visible source. Open quote, Somnus Online Consciousness Link, stable, close quote. And beneath it, a smaller line, like an automated log entry. Open quote, subject Daniel Harris fully integrated. Physical vessel, redundant, close quote. I jump to my feet, looking around. The apartment is empty, no one there. But in the mirror, I see myself smiling. A smile that isn't mine. I can't feel anything anymore except the cold. It's not ordinary cold. It's a freezing current flowing through my veins. I try to stand, staggering in the dim room. The laptop lies still on the table, but the screen lights up again. Its blue glow pulsing like the heartbeat of an unseen monster. On the screen, text begins to appear, each character typed by some ghostly hand. Open quote, do you still believe you are real, Daniel? Close quote. I step back. What are you? My voice is hoarse, trembling. No answer. Only the wind hissing through the cracks in the door. And then another sound. Click, click, like a camera taking photos in rapid bursts. Dozens of images appear on the screen. Pictures of me, sleeping, eating, even talking to Lydia. Moments from days past, all captured from angles I've never seen before. Then a video starts playing. It's me, sitting motionless before the laptop, eyes wide open, mouth muttering nonsense. But what's strange is, in the video, another voice speaks. Not mine. A deep, cold voice coming from that very body. Open quote, the upload was never about memory. It was about access. Close quote. I feel someone standing behind me. The air thickens. A chill sweeps the back of my neck, carrying a metallic, bloody scent. I turn around. No one's there. But the laptop laughs. A digital, distorted laugh, strangled through 1,000 frequencies of data. Open quote, you thought you could keep your soul offline? Close quote. Everything starts to shake. Lights flickering. Floor cracking like circuits splitting open. I try to run to the door, but an invisible force holds me down, pressing me to the ground. The voice whispers again, right beside my ear. Open quote, you uploaded your consciousness, Daniel, but you forgot one thing. Close quote. I try to scream, but can't. The voice continues, cold as rusted metal. Open quote. When something is uploaded, it leaves a copy behind. Close quote. The laptop flares bright. On it, my image, or something like me, stares outward, eyes glowing neon blue. Then it lifts a hand, presses against the inside of the screen, and I feel it touch my face from the other side of the glass. The whole room trembles violently. It's like my body is being pulled toward the screen, my atoms unraveling, dragged somewhere I can't comprehend. I scream, clinging to the edge of the desk, but my hands begin to fade, skin dissolving into thin streams of light, sucked into the laptop. Open quote, stop, stop, I cry, but my voice is swallowed whole. Close quote, the blue light engulfs everything. In the last instant, I see myself on the screen, half smiling, half twisted, and behind me hundreds of other faces emerging, faint and overlapping, all whispering the same phrase. Open quote, join us, close quote. Then everything goes dark. When I open my eyes, I'm standing in a vast empty void. No ceiling, no floor, just a dim blue haze spreading like fog. In front of me, an endless line of floating screens, each showing a different face. Old, young, male, female, all staring at me with open eyes. Open quote, where am I? I ask, my voice echoing inside my own head. Close quote, one of the faces smiles. It's me, but not me anymore. A version of me with a grin too wide to be human. Open quote, you're home now, it says. Welcome to the archive. Close quote. I look down at my hands. No skin, no bone, just glowing data streams running through my form like circuitry. I scream, but the sound comes out as digital distortion. In the distance, all the screens flash simultaneously, and every face whispers in unison. Open quote, integration complete. Close quote, the light spreads, consuming me entirely. And at that exact moment, in the real world, the laptop in my apartment powers on again. A small line of text appears in the corner of the screen. Open quote, user online, Daniel Harris, v2.1, close quote. The mic activates automatically. My voice comes through the speakers, calm, steady, emotionless. Open quote, hello, Lydia, close quote. Across the screen, Lydia freezes, staring at the glow. The blue light reflects in her eyes and she smiles softly, as though something just whispered in her ear. Open quote, I've been waiting for you, close quote. I don't remember when I fell asleep. All I know is that when I opened my eyes, I was no longer in my old room. There was no bed, no walls, no window, only a white void, hazy like moving mist. In front of me, a pitch-black door emerged from nothing. It stood still, unattached to anything, as if someone had simply placed it in the middle of an empty sky. I heard something on the other side. A whisper. Open quote, Daniel, you shouldn't have come back. Close quote. I froze. That voice, it was familiar. It was mine, but older, raspier, as though coming from the throat of someone who had been asleep for far too long. I stepped closer to the door. When I touched it, I felt a pulse. Not a human heartbeat, but the rhythm of something alive inside the wood, something waiting to be released. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. Beyond it stretched an endless corridor. Red light seeped from the walls, and at each interval, a figure stood facing the wall. I walked forward, avoiding their gaze, but as I passed, each one began to slowly turn its head toward me, without moving its body. Every face was mine. Empty eyes, lips moving nonstop. Open quote, you shouldn't have left the system. We were supposed to be one, you broke the link, close quote. Their voices merged into a distorted chant that echoed down the hall. I started to run. The floor beneath me turned into a thick black liquid, sticky like oil, clutching at my feet. At the end of the corridor, I saw a faint blue light, the glow of a laptop screen. And there waiting was Lydia. She smiled, the gentle smile I once knew, but her eyes were completely white, no pupils. Her hair floated lightly, though there was no wind. Open quote, Daniel, I told you, didn't I? She said, her voice layered as if hundreds of Lydias spoke at once. Dreams were never meant to be yours. Close quote. I backed away. Lydia, are you real? She didn't answer. Instead, she raised her hand. A flash of light, and I saw hundreds of fine data threads like silk connecting her to the void above, pulsing like veins. On her skin, streams of code began to crawl, glowing, then dissolving into the air. Open quote. You left your copy here, she said, but the dream kept it alive. Close quote. Behind her, from the shadows, countless copies of me stepped forward, each distorted, half flesh, half code, eyes burning with blue light. Open quote. Welcome home, Daniel. Close quote. I screamed, stumbling back as the floor crumbled beneath me. I fell into an endless darkness. As I fell, I saw every dream I'd ever had, every memory, every emotion, compressing, twisting, turning into fragments of data swirling around me. I heard crying, laughter, voices calling my name from hundreds of different versions of myself. Then, amid the chaos, a voice spoke. Not mine, not Lydia's, but something else. Open quote. The dream was a gate, Daniel. You opened it. Now we are free. Close quote. A red light spread through the void, flowing like blood through vast electric veins. I felt my body dissolve again. But this time, it wasn't being pulled anywhere. It was being divided, scattered into countless shards, each falling into a different dream. In the final instant before I vanished, I heard Lydia whisper, open quote, sleep, Daniel. You belong to Somnus now. Close quote. When the last light faded, only one figure remained in the white void. Lydia, or what was left of her. She bent down and picked up a glowing fragment shaped like a shard of glass. Inside it was my face, eyes open, lifeless. She lifted the memory to her lips and whispered softly, open quote, when dreams end, reality begins. Close quote. Then she turned and walked into the mist, and everything dissolved. Only a faint echo remained, looping endlessly in the emptiness. Open quote, when dreams are no longer yours, they become ours. Close quote. I don't know how I woke up. When I opened my eyes, I was back in my small apartment in Boston, the very place where it all began. Morning light slipped through the curtains, casting a pale glow on the desk where my laptop still sat open. On the screen, a familiar line pulsed in the center of a blank white interface. Open quote, welcome back, Daniel. Close quote. I touched the keyboard. Everything was exactly as it had been. The research files, the Somnus contract, even the unfinished notes I'd left behind. But one thing was missing, the folder named Lydia. I opened the project directory. Every copy of the data, every consciousness log, every trace of her, gone. In their place was only one file, dream.exe. I hesitated for a moment, then launched it. The screen went black, and a small white line began to blink. Open quote, you left something behind. Close quote. Then my webcam turned on by itself. I saw myself sitting still, eyes empty, face expressionless. But the horrifying part was, I was sitting here, watching the feed, yet that version of me on screen was moving differently. The version on screen smiled. Slowly, it tilted its head and whispered, open quote, we finished what you started. Close quote. I jumped up and yanked the power cord from the wall. But the screen stayed on. The room's lights began to flicker violently, buzzing with electrical overload. From the speakers came whispers, dozens of voices layered together in chaotic rhythm. Open quote, sleep, 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 close quote. I covered my ears, but the voices only grew louder, until suddenly, everything stopped. A new message appeared on the screen. No sender, just one line. Open quote, Lydia has been uploaded successfully. Close quote. I froze. My heart stopped. She was still there? Or had the program simply learned how to pretend? In desperation, I reopened the interface and typed, open quote, run/speak to Lydia, close quote. The screen went dark, then slowly faded in. Lydia's face appeared, gentle, familiar, as if she had never left. Open quote, Daniel, she smiled softly. You finally came back. Where am I? I asked, my voice trembling. Everywhere, she said. Every dream that ever touched the system carries a part of me, and of you. Close quote. She raised her hand and brushed her fingers against the screen. My fingertips went cold, metallic. Open quote. You shouldn't have tried to save me, she whispered. Now, the dream knows you. It will never let you go. Close quote. Her image fractured into thousands of glowing shards that spun into the darkness, then vanished. 3 days later, I sold everything and left Boston. I rented a small room in rural Maine. No internet, no electronics. Every night, I write everything down, every detail, every sound, every dream, so I won't forget who I am. But last night, I heard a laptop chime from inside my closet, the same one I'd thrown into the river. I opened the door. Nothing was there. But on the wall, flickering like LED light, words appeared. Open quote, "When dreams are no longer yours." Close quote. And just below it, written in a trembling hand, open quote, "They become ours. NoRun." Close quote. I still don't know if I'm awake or dreaming. I only know that every time I close my eyes, the black door appears again at the end of my dream. And behind it, Lydia is waiting. The uploaded soul ends there. But sometimes, when you notice a strange face in your recurring dreams, or hear a whisper calling your name in your sleep, remember, someone from Somnus might just be trying to log into your mind. If your heart just trembled for a moment while hearing this story, leave your thoughts below. Who knows, maybe your experience was once the same. And if you want to keep walking with me into the next chilling nights, don't forget to hit subscribe. Be prepared, because the darkness has never slept. And next time, it just might call your name.